Hello, hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Growth and Grace. It is Thursday morning, it's 6 a.m. Pacific, and here we are. And this morning we're going to talk about mentors because this is something that has been, it's been something I've had in my life for a long time. And it's only been the last couple years, I would say, when I've really actually been taking really full advantage of what's available when you have a mentor in your life. So first thing I want to address with it is this is going to look different for every person. So everything that I'm sharing today is what works well for me, and it may not look the same for you. And I also want to talk to the fact that there's like lots of different types of mentors. So don't feel like, and in fact, I wouldn't recommend that you just have one person. Find different people who can speak into different areas of your life. So for instance, there might be people that I go to for advice on business, and I might not even talk to other people in my life about business because they don't have the wisdom that I'm looking for. They don't have the fruit that I'm looking for. So I still love them, and I might go to these people for something totally different. But if I'm looking for business advice, I'm going to go this direction. So allow yourself the freedom to know that you can have different mentors for different things, and you might have a mentor that covers a few different areas in your life, and that's totally cool. But allow yourself just to not feel like there's only one person or you have to find that one person who can speak into your life. So, okay, we're talking about where to look for mentors, what to ask, and how to show up to make it worthwhile for everyone involved. And that last one I'm going to speak to in a little more detail because I got some feedback a few years ago that really, really hit me pretty hard, specifically around how I was showing up with my mentor. And she gave me that feedback, and it like kind of rocked my world. And it's actually totally shifted now how I show up to really absorb and implement the, the wisdom, the coaching, whatever you want to call it, that I'm receiving. I'm also just going to address this because I feel like there's someone watching that's going, oh, coaching. I know there's like a million different coaches, but coaching, I'm so over it. That's so fake. It's so like, it's such a screwed up industry. There's so many people charging so much money for it, yada, yada, yada. Fine, don't hire a coach, but call it whatever you want. If there's someone who knows more than you about a subject and they are teaching you and sharing with you their experience and what works, and they're helping guide you and they're helping you shift and make little tweaks along the way or making big tweaks along the way, you're getting coached. That's just kind of how it is. So call it whatever you want, but just know that there are people out there who coach really well and who do it really well, and you can work with them. And there are people that are mentors who wouldn't consider themselves a coach. So I don't particularly care what title you put to it. Just know that, you can get it from many different arenas. And so where to look? Because a lot of people are like, how do you find these people? Where are you looking? What do you like? How do you have the connections that you have? What does that look like? How do I do that? Really, really, really simply, I ask. And I know that sounds like so simple, and no, there's got to be more to it than that. But really, at the end of the day, there's not more to it than that. I ask if I see someone who has fruit in their life that I'm looking for, or like they're living out a lifestyle that I admire, they have a relationship that I admire, they have a business that's thriving. Like if there are people in my life who have something that I want, and if you're not totally sure what that looks like, it's anytime you find yourself thinking like, oh, that's so cool, or man, I would love to have that, or oh, I love that that's, something that they have in their life. Anytime you feel that, take notice of it. Notice who you're having those thoughts around and what you're admiring in their life. Those are people that you can consider as mentors. And there's kind of two different ways to go about this. There's probably more. Two of the most common ways. You can either blatantly ask that person, hey, would you be open to mentoring me? And then make sure that if that is the case, that you're both very clear on what that exchange looks like. A common mistake people will make is just assuming that the other person, of course, wants to be their mentor, and that that person's going to just handle all their problems and take care of everything and like be at the ready to advise them on any and everything that comes up in their life. And that's not healthy mentorship for either person involved. So what it can look like, and what my impression of a healthy mentorship looks like, is having it be very clear, like, hey, I'm approaching you, I'm seeking wisdom in, XYZ area or areas. And I would love to be able to counsel with you and get your wisdom on that. Would you be open to mentoring me? And then be really clear. And this, again, it's going to look different for every person. If there's any exchange of payment, maybe you take them out for a meal once a month, and that's, kind of your way of thanking them. And that's the time when they give you the wisdom. If it's an ongoing thing, if it's going to be a regular thing, there are definitely plenty of different ways to approach how you make sure that both people feel like it's a win, because what you want is for both people to feel like it's a win, right? You don't want it to feel like it's a total drain of energy for either person. So approaching them just very straightforward and saying, hey, I'd love to have you mentor me. Is that something you're open to? And then discussing with them or approaching them with here's kind of what I'm thinking that might look like. Does that feel like a win for you? Does that sound like something, you'd be open to? And then going from there. And it's going to look different for everyone. So don't feel tied to it having to look a certain way. For some people, there's an exchange of money, and it's like a professional, like, hey, I'm hiring you as my mentor, and here are the areas we're going to discuss, and here's how often we meet. For some people, it's a little more flowy, like, yeah, I'll be your mentor. Reach out whenever, and then we'll kind of gauge from there what this is looking like. If it's starting to get, very frequent or out of hand, then we'll have another discussion. And some people, maybe it's not taking them out to dinner. Maybe it's, sending them to the spa once a month, or getting them tickets to their favorite sports team and babysitting while they, go on date night. Like, it can look different for everyone. So allow yourself to kind of think outside the box with that. The other approach to mentorship is you don't even need to know the person. Honestly, we have so much wisdom available to us online, and just through so many different resources, and going to events and reading books and listening to podcasts, and you can glean wisdom, and you can really have people you look up to and admire, and you can learn directly from them without them even ever knowing, because they're giving that information out and it's available to you. So that actually counts as mentorship. If you're looking at someone and admiring them and listening to wisdom that they're offering and implementing it, you could consider them a mentor if you want. You could choose to put that title on it. So again, it doesn't so much matter. I don't know what my hair is doing. Sorry, guys. It doesn't so much matter what the official title is, as long as both people feel like it's a win. And if someone's giving free information out, or they're hosting events, like, the win for them is that they're wanting to get this information out, so you can feel good about utilizing it and implementing it. And how cool if, when you implement something that you learn from them, a strategy or a mindset or something, that it created a cool ripple effect in your life, and you can share that with them, right? Like, it matters. It helps people to know if they're making a difference for you. How cool to let them know, hey, this really made a difference for me. So you reach out to them and let them know, like, hey, I was at your event and you taught this XYZ strategy and I implemented it. Now I have 3 new clients and it's so amazing. Let them know that. That's really fun. It's cool to know when you make a difference for someone. So communicate that with people. So, okay. So that's a very brief overview of, like, where to look for mentors, and how to ask for mentors. So this last part that I really want to focus on is how to show up to actually make it worthwhile for everyone involved. And the feedback that I received a few years ago that really shifted this for me, so I'm sharing this with you vulnerably because I really want you to learn from my mistake and to not make this mistake, because it really sucked to get this feedback, and it was wonderful to get this feedback because it totally allowed me to shift and use show up differently to really be able to use the mentorship effectively and really have an impact. So the feedback that I got was from a woman I deeply respect and admire. And I really look up to her, and she has a lot of fruit in her life that I look forward to enjoying. And she told me, and we'd had several different interactions over time, and we're kind of really closely connected during a concentrated amount of time. And during that time, we were kind of taking turns supporting one another. And she gave me the feedback pretty bluntly of it oftentimes doesn't even feel worth it to get on a phone call and coach you because you don't do anything with it. And it really hit me hard to hear that, because, oh my gosh, first of all, I wasn't even aware of it. And yeah, I've touched on this in other talks about, it's one thing to ask for help. It's another thing to receive the help. And it's even a separate thing to then implement the help that you've received. And so with her, I was spinning, and I wasn't recognizing this until she pointed it out. But what was happening was that I was spinning on asking for help. And then she would give help, feedback, wisdom, suggestions, different things I could try. And then I either wouldn't receive it. I would just kind of brush over it and be like, yeah, okay, that's good. That's sage advice. Oh, excuse me. Good morning. Or I would receive it and be like, whoa, yeah, that's a great idea. And then I wouldn't do anything with it. Right? So she understandably was feeling like it's totally a waste of time because you're not even doing anything with it. So there were a few takeaways from that. The main takeaway was, the two main takeaways. Don't ask if you're not going to implement. Don't waste someone's time. If you're not going to take their advice, and the caveat to this is you shouldn't be asking advice from someone you wouldn't want advice from. So know that. And if someone's offering you unsolicited advice, you don't need to take it. You don't need to take advice you ask for, but that's wasting time. But if you're going to someone for wisdom and you're asking their advice, be willing to implement it. Be willing to take the steps to actually take action on what they are sharing with you, because they're taking their time, their energy, their wisdom, their experience, and they're offering that to you to help you. So take it and run with it and do something with it. And if you're not at a spot where you're willing to implement, then don't ask for support, because that is a waste of time and it's disrespectful. And that was so hard to hear. And she didn't say it like that. She didn't say, oh, you're so disrespectful. But the way she shared it, I was like, dang, that's so disrespectful for me to go to her and say, here's what I'm struggling with. Here's what I'm trying to overcome. Here's what feels like a roadblock for me. And then have her share really sound wisdom, have her share her own experiences of what she did to get through those exact same things. And then next time we talk, it was either the same problems or it was a different set of problems, but I hadn't really resolved the other problems, but I was too ashamed to come to her because I hadn't implemented what she suggested. So I just didn't talk about those problems. Now I just presented a new set of problems that I still wasn't going to implement her advice for. Right? So just show up willing to implement, show up willing to hear things you might not want to hear. I cannot tell you how many times my mentors have shared something with me, given me feedback, made some suggestions around something that I felt so tied to, no, this is how it has to look. And then if they suggest something different, I'm like, no, I don't want to change that. That's how it has to look. And if you show up though, willing to receive that, willing to hear that, show up knowing that this mentor, when you agree to a mentor relationship, they want to support you. They want to help you. They want to help you reach your vision. They want to help you hit your goals. They want to help you overcome obstacles. They want to help you get through, limiting beliefs. They want to help you expand your life and level up. And in order to do all of those things, you need to be willing to change. You need to be willing to shift. And you need to be willing to hear things that are going to have you change and shift. So sometimes that means really feedback that hits you hard. Sometimes that's hearing advice. And I just had a conversation with someone yesterday, and someone I admire, someone who has a thriving business. And I'm going through a few different shifts in my business. And so I was getting some advice, and the advice he was giving, I was like, oh, I don't want to be hearing this right now because it's so good and it feels so uncomfortable for me to be implementing those things. So it would be easier for me to be like, yeah, tell me all about your business and that's all we're going to talk about. But in this relationship, like, I am going to request and get support and get mentored. And if I'm not willing to receive the sage advice from someone who has the results that I'm looking to get, like, he's proven track record of getting things done and like building businesses from the ground up multiple times, multiple $1 million businesses. Like, if that's something I want to step into, I get to get uncomfortable. So that means I get to show up willing to receive like uncomfortable feeling suggestions of, here's what that looks like. Here's what I know is effective. Here's what's going to help you hit those goals. And oftentimes it's things that feel super uncomfortable for us, or things that, maybe trigger something in us. So know that when you're showing up, if you're going to be bold enough, and it takes courage to ask, if you're going to be bold enough to ask someone to mentor you, you also get to show up fully, willing to receive and willing to implement what they're sharing with you. And there are times, so hear me on this, there are going to be times where you receive advice and you're like, yeah, I'm like, that genuinely doesn't resonate with me. Like, I totally see how that worked for you. For me, that particular piece is not something I'm going to be implementing. And you can have that discussion back and forth. You're not a cookie cutter exact replica of your mentor, nor should you be. And there are going to be things that you may disagree on, and that's totally fine. You don't have to agree 100% with every single decision your mentor has ever made. Please don't try to find that. That doesn't exist. But you get to look at the fruit of what they've created and say, you know what? Yeah, there's a lot of value there. I would love to learn what they're doing and be able to begin implementing that myself. So with that, as you're out and about in your life, as you're meeting people, connecting with people, recognizing, wow, they really have, for me recently, I'm writing my book, my Abundant Wife book. So I'm looking at all these healthy marriages that I have in my life as examples, going, dang, they know a thing or two about marriage and what it takes to create a healthy, thriving marriage. And I look forward to having that so I can learn from these people. Like, I just interviewed a lady yesterday. They've been married 56 years, you guys. 56 years in a happy, healthy, thriving, still to this day, marriage. So there's something there. She has something that I would love. So what can I do? What can I learn from? And what can I begin implementing? And let me tell you, as I was interviewing her yesterday, there were some things that kind of stung a little bit of like, oh, yeah, no, all right, that's an area that I can, work on. And it doesn't always feel yummy and delicious and like, oh, that's just so delightful. All those different pieces that I now get to implement. Most of the time it's like, oh, you kind of got to suck it up and be like, no, it's worth it though. The change that I want to make, the life that I want to live is worth stretching into these uncomfortable spaces. It's worth receiving feedback that might sting a little bit or a lot, depending on, what the subject is and who's delivering it and how it's delivered, but it's worth it. So allow yourself to receive. So that is my quick overview of mentorship and where to look and what to ask. And that was my reminder alarm to wrap it up and start cutting myself off here. So I'm gonna listen to the replay. I'd love to hear what stuck out to you. If you have other option or other opinions on how you have found mentors and what's worked for you in that arena, I would love to hear them. Go ahead and comment here in the thread, and we'll see you guys next week. Growth and Grace every Thursday, 6 a.m. Pacific. Until then, enjoy seeking out mentors and enjoy being a mentor, because whether you know it or not, people are learning from you. So what would you want them to learn? Act accordingly. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.